Hello and welcome to Listen Up, the NSO pre-show talk. I'm Dale Jarvis, your host, and we are delighted tonight to start off with a conversation with Michael Lee, who will be finally getting to present this concert. It's been a while in the making. We got shut down, I think, in February when you were supposed to do this first.
That's right. Yeah, it was early February when we were supposed to perform, and we had the lockdown. And it's been great to finally be able to reschedule it and get on stage with the NSO.
So you are going to be performing Mozart's Concerto for Piano, number 20 in D minor.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the piece?
Sure. It was written in 1785. It is probably one of Mozart's most well-known piano concerti, and it was during a stage in his life when he wrote a lot of them. He had moved to Vienna a few years prior, and the Viennese audiences seemed to really, really enjoy his keyboard playing. So within the span of 2 years, he wrote 12 of his piano concerti, actually, numbers 14 to 25, and this one's kind of right in the middle there. And it's one of two of the piano concerti that are in a minor key, and it exemplifies this style of the period called Sturm und Strang, which is this storm and stress is how it translates to English. This idea of, I guess, two extremes of dealing with things that are very expressive, but also dealing with things that are very dramatic, and it's very fascinating how he kind of manages to balance both those aspects in this piece.
I feel we can all understand the storm and stress having lived through this
Yeah,
last
that's right. I mean,
this
there's
last
a
year.
lot of anxiety even just at the opening of the concerto, so it's probably a good parallel for the current day.
So you have been living away, kind of before the pandemic, and so now you're back for this. Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to and how you've been affected over the last year.
It's been kind of an interesting story, I think. Just around the beginning of the pandemic, I remember the date actually. It was March 17th, 2020, and I had seen all of these news reports, and everything was starting to get shut down, and I didn't really know what was gonna happen. So I decided to book a one-way ticket home because I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it if I didn't, and just came back with a carry-on luggage with three pairs of clothes, and here I am in April in 2021, and I'm still in Newfoundland with my three pairs of clothes. So yeah, I just kind of up and left Toronto right at the start of the pandemic and haven't been able to return. Um, but I've been really fortunate because I've been able to still work in Toronto. I'm still teaching. I was teaching at the University of Toronto and still teaching other students in Toronto as well, and being able to do that here in Newfoundland, and also being able to do such wonderful concerts, with the orchestra and with other people too in the community. So um, I've been fortunate, and I've been very homesick for the last 7 or 8 years too. So it was kind of really good timing for me to be able to come home, even though it was, under these circumstances.
I know that musical education is something that's been very important to you in different facets of your life. What is it about that, the teaching of music, that speaks to you?
Well, I think that music specifically, and specifically one-on-one lessons, are a very unique setting where we're able to work with students, just one-on-one in a room together, and be able to interact with each other in that way. And you as a teacher gets to know each of your students really well and learn about all of their personality traits and try your best to use those aspects of it to really try to help them grow and develop as a musician. I've had, the great privilege of being able to work with a lot of fantastic teachers as well, and it's a relationship that I feel often goes beyond even music making. I've been able to, I've gotten so much support and so much advice from my teachers as well uh, throughout the years, and I think it's just that setting I feel like is so special, and um, learning music is such a, I don't know, it's a wonderful endeavor. So it's just a combination of all sorts of good and wholesome things, and I think that's what I find so appealing about it.
So now, if people want to learn more about you or follow along, I know you have a website. Do you have a website or social media you want to give a plug to?
Yeah, that was my pandemic project, actually. I learned how to code a little bit, and then I just launched my personal website. It's michaelleepianist.com. And on it, you can reach me if anyone wants to reach me. I have my dissertation research on there too, which is also in teaching. It's in educational psychology, this topic of educational psychology. So if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about the kinds of things that I'm interested in, or also just learn more about teaching in general, then there's lots of stuff on there.
Awesome. And maybe someone will start a GoFundMe campaign to get you a fourth set of clothes.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Oh, I'd love that. Well,
Thanks
I
for this,
haven't
Michael.
actually. Oh, thanks so much.
All right, great.
Okay.
Okay, our next guest on Listen Up is no stranger to those of you who are fans of the NSO. Peter Gardner, welcome. It's always nice to have a chat.
Lovely to see you, Dale. It's great. I've been watching you over the last months doing these interviews, and I think they're great. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, it's been lovely to kind of peer into people's living rooms and see what they're like at home.
The thing I'm really struck by is that I don't know how many of your listeners know, but everybody is aware that since we've had the COVID, people have been trying to go online. And the National Arts Centre Orchestra went online, and the Toronto Symphony went online. But the very first orchestra to go online was the Newfoundland Symphony Orchestra in Canada. It was ahead of everybody. And they've got a really good program. And there are many people here and in Europe, friends of mine, and even Australia, who've watched what's going on. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I'm sure it'll be kept up even when we're back to normal operation. But I just wanted the public to know that this was ahead of even the big orchestras in Canada. And many of the orchestras, the smaller ones, we're a smaller orchestra, we're not the Toronto Symphony or the National Arts Centre, just packed it up and said, we're going away and we'll get rid of our toys and we'll play on air. But the Newfoundland Symphony Orchestra did not do that. Hugh and his team decided that they were going to go for it. And I think that's absolutely remarkable.
Well, I know it's an interesting kind of segue into what we wanted to talk to you about, this whole business of adapting to the pandemic, which is kind of what gave birth to this piece that I want you to introduce for us and tell us a little bit about. What is the full title of it to start with?
It's called 2 Meters, which goes to the heart of what we call separation during a pandemic. Everybody must be 2 meters. And that has created quite a challenge for the NSO. I mean, you've got a stage which is 50 feet across and 50 feet deep, but instead of everybody being close and the way they are in the winds, you now have to have 2 meters separation. And that has affected everybody, not just here, but everywhere here to Vancouver. And that whole idea of 2 meters separation, I began to look at it and think, I think we could do something creatively which actually focuses on 2 meters. So if everybody is 2 meters, what do we do? And that's how I came to write my piece, which is called 2 meters. And the cover of it, whether people have seen it or not, I brought it here. There's a cover. It shows an incredible cloud. I always publish all my scores. And I think the city is Toronto, but the choice of that photograph is that it's this ominous cloud coming over what is essentially a very bright city. Now, that photograph, by the way, was done by an incredible photographer called Lucas Bischoff in Germany. And he gave me the rights to use that photograph for the score and for the music. That's what I do. I spend time working. It wasn't just taken. And if anybody wants to go and see Lucas Bischoff online, he's an amazing photographer that's been around the world. And that picture, to me, encapsulated this cloud that was slowly engulfing everybody. Now, I'd already written the piece by the time I found the photograph. I spent a long time finding a photo for the front of the thing, but I'd already written the piece by then. And the concept of the piece was that gradually this ominous sound emerges, and the piece is actually very highly stereophonic, so it was actually difficult for the NSO to produce. They had to reset the stage. It's not a conventional setup. The flute is 50 feet away from the oboe player. The clarinet player is 50 feet right around. I used 2 timpanis of equal pitch, which are 50 feet across the stage. The violins are stretched across the stage at the front. And the whole idea of how I wrote it was to create a stereophonic piece of music. In other words, the natural performance would create a stereo effect. So you would actually hear the cloud coming over you, and you'd hear it passing across the stage from one person to another. You'd hear the virus. There's a theme in the middle, which is a virus. I intended as a virus, a tiny little module, and it gets passed from one person to another across the 40 feet of the stage, as if you are in contact with somebody with a virus. So it was actually designed as a virus to musically interpret a virus as it spread, because we've been in the middle of it. And hopefully at the end of the piece, after a couple of, it's there, and then it's quiet, and then suddenly it comes back again, but doesn't come back ordinarily. It comes back with more virulence, more difficulty, more threat, and then it gradually dissipates until the piece ends as if everything's disappeared, which is what we hope will happen. But it was a visual picture of a spreading pandemic and how that pandemic is thrown and collected from one person to the other. And that fascinated me about how we could interpret that using a small piece of music as if it was a virus and move it among the players to make them feel as though they're catching this virus.
That's excellent. Is there a musical precedent for this kind of storytelling in time of pandemic?
As far as I know, this is the very first piece. As far as I know, there is nothing here in North America or Europe that has tried to do this. This is absolutely unique. And of course, it presented problems for Mark David, the conductor, because given the small amount of time that he had on the stage to create a concert, to set this up and to disassemble it, to go to the second piece of music, would have taken maybe half an hour of the time they could have had on stage. So that's why it was never done live. It was recorded and will be coming out on recording. And it's just because when you think about the fact that the orchestra, instead of with the winds being a clump in the middle, they're spread in this arc all around 50 feet. And there's these 2 timpanis on either side of the stage who pass a cloud, the same pitch, but they send this cloud from one side to the other across the orchestra. It was not possible for the orchestra to clear the stage and move into a Mozart piano concerto and not lose maybe half an hour of performance time, given that the Art Center is only giving them an hour and 15 minutes for a concert, which is understandable. I mean, that's to do with the COVID. So it's been recorded and it'll go out, and it's
Thanks, Peter.
And thanks for your time as well.